Don't make me have to jump over there and take care of you, Mr. Bird. I promised myself that I was going to do better today, and I've already failed. Okay. Thank you all for coming. I have asked Mr. Calderon to do the pledge and Mr. Eidson to do the prayer. So if you would like to join us, please stand and bow your head.
Please join me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day and thank you for your love and your mercy and all the blessings of this life. Father, we lift up the Calderon family today. We ask that you wrap your arms around them and give them your love and support that they need at this time, such a tragic loss. Father, we lift up all of our students, their families, and our educators who work so hard. And Father, we ask that you give us wisdom, guidance, and direction in the decisions that we make tonight. They're pleasing to you. Father, forgive us where we fail you. In your precious and holy name we pray.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I am looking for an approval of the agenda. Do we need to move or change anything? Nothing. Okay.
I move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I forgot to mention everybody's here. I need to roll call that?
No.
Okay. We all have had our information since Friday, so if I could have an approval of the minutes. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I don't know about you, but I think I hear some angels.
Madam President, it's the soccer game. We're kicking off the national anthem, so they're doing that right now.
Okay. Good to know.
Nationally ranked soccer team.
That's right. That's right. Okay, presentations. Is that you, Mr. Strickland? Ms. Cooper?
Yep. Oh, Madam President, members of
Miss-
the board,
Okay, Ms. Dixon.
Mr. Rozier's here to give us a really special presentation. We're really excited about.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight, I bring to you an amazing kindergartner from Broadmoor. Just a little bit as Cash comes down. Cash is a kindergarten student at Broadmoor, and last month we had a presentation from New Mexico Public Education Department and McDonald's, who are partnering with a reading superhero program. Severo Martinez, who is the director of the Literacy Bureau, actually wrote a book. And he came down and shared the book in an assembly at Broadmoor. And McDonald's is also partnering with them. And so as we're having our presentation, they asked for a volunteer out of the audience to read a slide. And I'm in the back, and we're in the back, and we see Cash raise his hand. And he's a kindergartner. He got up there so bravely in front of the entire student body and read off of the slide. I mean, not little bitty words, really big words. Some of me, I was like, oh, how do you pronounce that word? But so today we want to just present Cash as our first Hobbs reading superhero. So we have his principal, Miss, stay right here for a second, sir. Miss Melinda Everhart, and his teacher, Miss Ponce. So, and mom. is
First
here.
teacher,
Yes.
yes.
So Cash, here's your certificate, but what we also have for you, because you're a reading superhero, you have a cape. You are so brave, not only just to read, but to stand up in front of your entire school. Some of us, even as adults, have a hard time with that. So we're so super proud of you. Can we put this cape on you?
brought his favorite book. Can we read it? You want to-
Sure,
Of
please.
course. I'm gonna hold this for you. I'm gonna put it up on the podium. Put it on the podium right here. Or is it too tall for you?
He's tall,
Okay.
taller than me.
Here we go. Tell me what you need, buddy.
How proud we are of Cash, and so many times we honor our athletes, sometimes, who obviously deserve that, but we want to recognize him and his parents' efforts
Absolutely.
and their value of reading. So you are a true superhero, Cash.
Yes, you are.
I actually have a superhero.
You
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
So mom, dad, I want to give this to you.
Yes.
This is Annette. It's a portion of Annette.
Thank you.
And you guys were his first teacher.
Yes.
You've been his support net that has allowed him to have that courage to be successful. We've got a long story about that net and what that net means to us. But when we have those support nets, we're able to take risks. Cash, continue to take risks. Continue to press forward, be better because of you taking risks. Proud of you. We're looking forward to you. And what year do you graduate high school?
Yeah.
2036.
That's a long time ago. We know we are.
That's right.
2036.
Give me one more five.
Oh my gosh.
Proud of you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you can laugh. I noticed.
He's so cute.
Madam President, our next presentation is from my power, Danielle Hernandez. I almost drew a blank and I was like, there's no way that's happening.
It's okay. It happens to the best of us. Well, good afternoon, guys. My name is Danielle Hernandez. I'm the executive director of Frontline Power, and this is Pat Nessel, she's our program director. And tonight we're going to be your dynamic duo. I want to start off by saying thank you. Thank you for this long partnership that we've had for the last 30 years. We're so proud and honored. Over the last 15 years, we have received 11,500 through mentorship, through love and passion. And we have done this together. This is who we are and what we do. My Power is a private system that teaches our girls how to navigate their teen years by succeeding academically, making good choices, avoiding teen pregnancy, and setting goals. Now, if you know My Power, you know that we get straight to the hard stuff real quick. So we do this because we want better for our youth. So the pressures start off in middle school, the teen pregnancy, academic failures, drug and alcohol abuse, and exposure to negative peer pressure. We're all concerned about these. Early indicators of sexual activity are low self-esteem, poor academic performance, economic issues, lack of easy access. These are just some of the reasons why My Power Youth Development Services right here in the county offer 3 programs at no cost for our girls all throughout the county. We are now offering for the first time ever a pilot voice program. Our first program is the Mentoring Circles program for 5th grade. We hosted a 3-month program in Hobbs, Eunice, and Jow. The Mentoring Circles graduation hosted more than 500 English feedback. Hosted this graduation girls from 9 schools who successfully finishing the program. Right, it said 9 schools. Recently expanded into Booker T. Our second program is the Middle School Edition program for 6th and 8th grades. We are currently in the middle schools right now. This program takes place from August to December, and we currently have 1,000 plus girls enrolled in this. Our third program is the My Power Leadership Camp for girls entering 6th grade. Girls all throughout the county. Completed camp with 186. The girls learned life and academic skills, including memory techniques and note-taking skills to help them succeed in school and in life. The girls have learned to give an authentic and meaningful apology, how to set boundaries, how to set goals, and how to self-advocate. The Boys Pilot Program will take place at Mills Elementary in January 2024. We work in 13 schools and have served 1,497 girls this fiscal. We're very excited for the opportunity to now serve boys. With so many diverse students and families surrounding us, we are reminded of what truly matters at My Power. Our students, caretakers, volunteers, donors, schools, and partners just like you are the reason that we can do what we do, and you guys are the heart of My Power. We can confidently say that we are innovating and creating new opportunities for the My Power program. We're working with Lee County schools and can pivot from in-person programming to digital. We are also working with Dr. Bethel Escamilla and Dr. Adrian McCravel and student Dr. Victoria Harrison to create the voice curriculum. This is only possible because of the top school. I have some really great news. Right now, teen birth rates in the 15 to 17-year-old category are down by 84%. I know, it's exciting. And then in the 15 to 19-year-old category, they're down by 65.5%. So what we are doing is working, and we are so excited to be adding boys because they're part of the equation. So adding boys in the 5th grade pilot program as well. Our teen birth rates have been a community effort. So it's taken our schools, it's taken our churches, our political leaders, it's taken you guys. And we couldn't have done it alone. So thank you. Thank you for the partnership. Thank you for believing in us. And thank you for always investing in us. I'd like to open up questions y'all might have. Elaine's not here. I would say save the hard ones for her.
Well, I actually think that it's a wonderful idea to at least have a pilot program with the boys. I'm not quite sure 5th grade boys listen very much, but maybe it's not such a knock in the head, and I hope you all do have some male mentors.
Yes, so we are not going to be running the 5th grade program. We can teach a woman how to be a woman. I would think that I can teach a man how to be a man, but you guys might not agree with that. So, we will have men, it would be all men. We will be in the background cheering them on, helping them out, but it will be male mentors and a male, a male leading it. It will be us in the sidelines cheering them on.
You know, I don't have a question, but I wanted to make an observation. When I came on the school board, Lee County had the distinction of being the highest in the nation as far as teen pregnancy. One of my big concerns, and I'd mentioned that to the previous superintendent, is we got to do something about that. And that's about the time my power got involved also. And look at the difference it's made. It's unbelievable. So I thank you.
I know you're, haven't started the curriculum, but you got a little bit of what the boys are gonna be getting.
We actually have started the curriculum, and there's going to be 12 lessons, and we're really excited. So it's going to be still taking from our female curriculum, and it's going to be tailor-made for the boys. So the same principles, just applied a little different. So the boys are going to learn how to tie a tie and how to go to Pacific Rim and have manners. They're going to learn how to that they're able to stand up and say no like the girls. But we think an important piece is also how to respect no. And when they're told no, how to respect them. So how to say no, but then also respect it whenever it's being told to them. They're going to be able to learn about themselves. They're going to learn how to make good friends, how to set healthy boundaries, how to have that value, and how to stay true to who they are. So they're going to get to do all of this. They're going to get to go through career fairs and meet different people in our community. And with the females curriculum, it's not like just women. Yes, we have women mentors, but we bring in good men that come in and also and speak to our girls, because we want them to see good community men and what that looks like. So with the boys, even though it's going to be led by a man, we're going to bring in good females to come in and also show them what an example of a great woman looks like. So it's going to be kind of a different approach, but they'll get to learn how to tie ties. They'll get to learn how to respect others, how to respect being told no, and those are kind of, we're excited. Really are. Yeah.
Just a great program. All three of our girls went through it and through my power, and it's just a great program. It's great. I'm glad, like I agree with everybody else. It's a good thing to have it for the boys.
We're excited.
We're looking for great things out of my power to continue. So, thank you for coming.
Of course. Thank you guys for having us.
Thanks, Tina. Thanks, Kat. Appreciate you.
Okay, it's at this time that we recognize anyone in the audience who would like to address the board. Anyone? If not, we will carry over into instruction.
Madam President, members of the board, I'm going to ask Mr. Parrish, the high school principal, to come down. And he and his group that he'll introduce are going to talk about an out-of-state trip for the FFA Nationals. And this will be an action item for your consideration.
Madam President, members of the board, today with Mr. Ray Polaris and Cheyenne Mulholland. They're our FFA teachers. About maybe 2.5 weeks ago, we found out that 2 of our girls were invited to national. Out through the next. Was FFA doing the Spanish tree. So, to the questions part, that's why I brought them. So we've done the numbers. The first page you had in the packet was just a letter asking for permission. Just dates, November 1st, the first day, Friday the 3rd, is the last day. It is in Indianapolis, Indiana. They will have to fly there. There's 2 girls, 2 instructors. Right now, the flights are $400 per person. Flights go up, they go down, they move around. So that's what they were last Friday. Then the hotel room for 421 for the king size beds, 431 size. Only 2 king size rooms and grand total right now, if airfare didn't go up and those kind of things, $7,092. Also look at different hotels. We just kind of picked one of the most expensive ones just to kind of throw, what could be the highest. Is this the hotel that the convention is at? Yeah.
Oh, it's like 5 miles.
Okay.
Really?
I think it's close.
Okay. So
Oh,
that's also
yeah.
another reason why I had to go with.
Oh, you'll have to have transportation. Did you include that?
No, I did
Hmm.
not. I was gonna make an Uber.
That's okay. Take an Uber.
I get a budget adjustment when it gets back.
Yeah, I have no idea what Uber's cost. My wife takes care of it. And so the next page on the packet is just kind of the agenda of what they're doing. We'll be going. We have two.
Yes, what is Spanish Creed?
So every year, the Spanish, the creed is named, so we have competitors from junior high, mostly from ninth grade, so if you're a ninth grader, you read, so you can. So, 3 years ago, they introduced the Spanish creed, which we've been part of the past 3 years here in New Mexico. And we're probably the only district in New Mexico, was one of the largest districts, us, us, Roswell, Carlsbad, Artesia, so all the big schools in this area. We're the only ones that are doing it. Last year, one of my girls won it, so for our district. So that's why we were asked to go represent. So the Spanish Creed, reason they turned it to the Spanish Creed too is because Puerto Rico is also part of 50 states that get involved. So they're mostly so like this will be our first annual national that thing. First annual.
Any other questions?
And Madam President, members of the board, given that this was an unplanned expenditure, operational would cover these costs for including the Uber.
It won't make you walk.
Sounds like a fun trip.
I will entertain a motion.
So
I
move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You do have a copy of the creed, starting on page 21. If you keep scrolling through all the itinerary, at the end of it there's 3 pages and some information about that. They did a good job. Thank you. You did a great job. Thank you. All right, if you go to page 24, I have a chart here on parent-teacher conferences. This is information only for your information. And you can see in the blue, we have the September 13th, which was our fall parent conference. Enrollment, we like to show you the enrollment number and the count of parents, and then we try to give you a percentage of how many parents showed up this year. The next 2 colors are just giving you a comparison from 2022 fall and 2021 fall as well, so you can kind of see. I would like to point out that if you look down the blue column, College Lane made a big jump from last year, 30% in their parent conferences. other schools that this was their highest out of the three was Coronado, Edison, Jefferson. Mills stayed the same with their highest ever. Murray 90, Southern Heights 88, and down at Houston with 46 for the secondary schools. So we feel like we just kind of hang in there, 58, 55, and 60, you know, from year to year. So we are always glad when parents can get out and visit with teachers, come see the school, check on kiddos, and help us build relationships with one another.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gray. No, Mr. Byrd.
Madam President, members of the board. So for the reports for this month, you had your report of certified employment. We did have 6 new hires, teachers. 4 of those 6 were international. And we've been in the process with some of them since about March last year. And we finally now have gotten here and are physically in Hobbs and in our classrooms. Classified employment, we had 25 new hires, anywhere from nutritional services to paras. And then we had certified resignations. We did have 6 since last month. 2 social workers, 3 teachers, and 1 instructional coach. Due to various life happenings with some of these folks, I am able to tell you that of the 3 classroom or the 4 classroom teachers, or no, I'm sorry, the 3, we've been able to replace 2. Not a, it's a huge, it is a hit, but it hopefully we're able to kind of take care of that. Classified resignations, we had 6, and then we did have 1 certified retirement from Heiser.
Questions for Mr. Byrd?
I have none.
I see we hired an old favorite back.
Yes, we did.
Glad to have Tammy Rotuno and our children. Okay, Mrs. Byrd.
Madam President, members of the board, I have several informational items for you guys tonight. First is from our 40-day reporting. Our 40-day actually ended on Wednesday of last week, and so this is not certified data, but it is approximate. I provided last year's 22-23 membership in the first box. But if you follow down to the green area, that is this year's 40-day, 10,281 actual students enrolled as of the 11th. Membership numbers 9862 and the FTE membership 9806. If you look over to the right, the first column, 23-24 to 22-23, the difference between 40-day last year and 40-day this year, 233 increase in enrollment, 50 increase in membership, 48.5 increase in FTE membership. And then the second column has a comparison between end of year last year to 40-day this year. So last day of school last year, we're up 268 students from where we ended the school year last year. Membership of 105 and FTE membership of 135. So we are continuing a steady climb of increased enrollment. The next item I have for you is 40-day attendance. So from the same 40-day reporting period, again, this is estimated as we are not certified yet. But the first column is the school, second column, chronic absentees, the number of students who qualify to be a chronic absentee. And that means that they have missed 10% or more of the school days that we've been in session. So 44 days is how many were in the reporting period. So any student who missed more than 4 days out of 44 would be considered chronically absent. So you can see at each school, the number of students that is compared to the total enrollment, and that gives you your percentage of chronic absentees. So we have some bright spots. Mills and Edison and Broadmoor are 3 lowest at the elementary level. The secondary schools are down at the bottom. Highland having the lowest percent of chronic absentees. And so the other schools hovering there in the upper 20s, low 30%. Do I have any questions on 40-day enrollment or attendance?
Do we know how these compare to other districts? Is there any way to tell that?
Actually, there is. It's very similar. It's very similar to the state as a whole. We wouldn't be able to compare our current numbers because they haven't published current state and other district numbers. But if you're looking at the end of the year last year, our end of the year last year is very similar in that between 20 and 30% range of our students are chronically absent.
Thank you.
Madam President, Mr. Eidson, one of the topics of conversation last week at LESC was a commitment to look at the Attendance for Success Act. What those implications for our school districts. Better inform how well we move forward as it relates to what that is. The brief history. Attendance, the way we calculate attendance changed. School year 1920, is that right? 1920. So there's a complete overhaul of our attendance reporting mechanism. COVID hit, and so we've done some things, as you all know, here locally. What we had available in terms of attendance monitoring and attendance tracking, that may have been truancy officers before. We have repurposed 4 of those positions and added 6 positions to that division. Those are our PALs, stands for Parent Attendance Liaisons. And their responsibility is help identify and navigate barriers for parents that are having difficulty getting their kids to school. We recognize when kindergartners, one of your highest chronically absent grade levels, they're not responsible for getting us to school. So we want to partner with parents to have school. And next month, you'll see some of those efforts that we engaged in as a school district. Attendance matters. That we attendance in the month of September. There's some of those successes and some of those efforts.
The next item I have for you is related to assessments. Part of a balanced assessment system includes not just the state test at the end of the year, but also interim and formative assessments throughout the year. Your interim assessments are quarterly or at a trimester type pace as far as, whereas your formatives, those are the things that are happening daily in the classroom. Those are those quick checks, even classroom tests, things like that. But Mr. Strickland had asked for me to do a comparison of our beginning of year assessments, so what we call our BOY. We do a BOY and MOY, middle of the year, end of year EOY. And so this is a comparison of our beginning of year assessments since we returned back to school full time. And we've used a couple of different assessments and different grade levels use different things. But this is a breakdown, hopefully to kind of help make it a little bit more simple. So in 21-22, we implemented, or we were using iStation reading for reading and math as an interim assessment. We give iStation every month for progress monitoring, but during the beginning of the year, the months of August and September, those are considered our beginning of year. So that's kind of our benchmark for the beginning of the year, kind of like a pre-test to see where students start out. So K-5, that's all we were doing in 21-22. In 22-23, we added the IMASA, which is the interim version of the state summative assessment. And we implemented that in grades 3 through 8. Now, the reading component was optional for elementary schools, grades 3 through 5. but 75% of our students did participate in that. So most of the schools were using that assessment. But all of the schools were using it for math. And then this year, we're continuing with iStation as we have been for K-5, and we are continuing with IMASA for grades 3 through 8. So we do have a couple of years worth of data across various grade levels to compare. So if you're looking at the graph on the first page, the bars are the iStation, the percent of students who are considered at grade level or at grade level readiness for reading. And the plot charts, the lines with the shading behind them, that represents IMASA. And there's only 2 years worth of that data, and it's only 3rd through 8th. So that's why you see two different representations of the data, but I wanted to be able to show the differences. They're 2 different assessments. They assess different things. iStation assesses readiness, and IMASA assesses standards. It's standard based. So one is skills and one is standards, but you can see a progression over time. The important thing really to glean out of all of this is that since coming out of COVID, that we are showing improvement each year. So if you're looking at the green bars, let's just look at kindergarten. 11% of our students in August of 2021, 11% of our kindergartners were ready for reading. They were ready for those skills. This year's kindergartners, 2 years later, not the same kids, same grade level, they're coming into our kindergarten classrooms, 22% of them ready for reading. So that doesn't sound like a huge jump, but it really is a really good increase in that number. And so you can see that every grade level has an increase except for 4th. There's a dip there, so that's definitely something that we're looking at. 5th grade is very steady, and you can also see that their IMASA scores are very similar percentage-wise. And so that's something really telling and encouraging for them going into 6th and 7th grade. We typically have a dip at 6th grade. No matter, as long as I've been in education, there's always a dip at 6th grade. The standards are a little bit different. They're going to a new building, there's transition, there's, life going on when they're 12 years old. And so there is that dip there, but that 5th grade being so strong is very encouraging for moving into the middle grades. And so iStation drops off at 5th grade, and then we just continue on with IMASA. But you can see that each year, except for 8th grade, that we are showing some improvement over those years.
Let me interrupt you. I think it's interesting to note as well that 5th grade is the last year that we formally.
Yeah.
That is true also. If you scroll down to the next page, that is the same information, but for math. So it's organized the same way. You can see that all of our grade levels, except for kinder, are starting out the year higher than than that same grade level the year before. So on iStation, and then on IMASA, while the percentages of students who are meeting those standards, or remember, this is beginning of the year, it's a pretest. So the number of students that have already grasped those standards or already demonstrating proficiency at those standards is low, but you can see that each year coming in, it's getting better. So we have things in place, and there are things going on in the instruction world that are addressing those standards and getting better at that.
Interesting about 4th grade math.
Mm-hmm. They knocked it out of the park. Yeah.
In 5th grade, didn't.
No, but they're getting better. I mean, each year's better.
That's true. I was comparing it to their reading.
To their what? To their reading? Yes, yes. Math across the board at every grade level is significantly lower than the reading.
Except 4th.
Except for 4th. I don't know what's going on in 4th grade.
Yeah. Interesting.
Maybe they're starting sixth grade earlier, like all that stuff, you know? So also, the first two graphs are showing you by grade level. So kindergartners last year are different kids than the kindergartners this year. The graphs below that are taking those kids and putting them in their proper cohort and showing you how they are progressing as a group over time. So if you look at the very first box, that's iStation reading. The column is kindergarten, the row is 2036 cohort. So Cash, our little kindergartner who was up here, that's his cohort. They only have one data point because they're brand new to us. But you can see that group is coming in 22% ready for reading. If you go down to the next row, that's our current first graders. But if you go back one column, that shows you what that same group of kids did in kindergarten. So this year's first graders, 18% readiness at the beginning of kindergarten. Same group of kids, 27% readiness at the beginning of first grade. That's excellent, because that's the same group of kids that have not slid backwards over the summer. They're coming in higher than they started out as kindergartners. Second grade cohort, we've got 3 years of data in iStation for them. So 11%, 23%, and then 33%. So granted, it's all beginning of the year. They haven't had instruction for very long yet, but those are all very encouraging percentages. So pink is iStation, green is iMassa. So you can see our current fifth graders actually have 5 data points. So when they were in third grade, they had iStation. When they were in fourth grade, they had iStation and iMassa, and this year they have iMassa and iStation as well. And you can see those numbers are getting closer together. Our iStation is matching our iMassa better than it did. And then remember, if you're looking left to right, these are the same kiddos. So that's extremely encouraging. Then you have 2 more tests that I just went ahead and put on here for your information. These are our interim assessments for our secondary or for our high school kiddos. And we've done some changing around. As you know, our 11th graders take the SAT as 11th grade. And so we're trying to prepare them with practice PSAT. And we've used 2 different products. We used Illuminate last year and we're using Horizon this year. And hoping to see some better results with those. But again, this is their readiness. You know, if they were given PSAT questions at the beginning of the year of their 9th grade year, only 3% of them would be considered meeting the benchmark. So we have work to do, but it does show you that same group of 9th graders, they're 9th grade now, as 8th grade, 26% of them were proficient. At the beginning of their 8th grade year. So that's all very encouraging. There's a lot to work with. And then the last chart is, again, same thing, but for math. And you can see that starts with that kinder cohort, goes all the way down to the current 10th graders, which is class of 2026. Last year, 4% in math, 3% this year in math. So it's consistent, but we've got some work to do to get them ready for that SAT. Franklin, do you have comments for members? Do you have questions?
I think some general comments back on page 40. The state of New Mexico, as well as Hobbs Schools, has invested tremendously in people as it relates to the science of reading and instructional strategies as it relates teaching reading. Know that reading is critical. It's critical to success. So if you look at that table on page 40, not all of our staff have received that training and that certification. In fact, less than half of our elementary staff have received that full-blown training. The cohorts where you see consistent growth are those cohorts that have had those teachers that have been practicing that science of reading within that instructional model as it relates to structured literacy as opposed to balanced literacy or balanced reading. So again, not too far off from what you would see across the state. What we do believe is what you see as well. We've got work to do. We'll continue to engage in that. I think the interesting thing about the BOY at the beginning of the year is we're not waiting until the end of the year to go, hey, how are we doing? Looking at this at each one of those interim assessments, it'll inform what adjustments we need to make. We did get our report cards. We shared that last month on the school year 21-22. At that last month. Year later, it's difficult to make any changes last year in that instruction. So interim assessments for us are big, well as those formative assessments daily. And so being able to align those instruments where they all help inform that assessment model. It's not just one single data point, allows us to make better decisions instructionally as we move forward. And we'll continue to look at it. We'll continue to make adjustments. We'll continue to study it. For the first time, again, back to LASC last week, I heard some conversation requesting if there's instead of a science for reading, if there's a science for math. Science of math instruction. How do we improve on the science of math instruction? So, long discussion, much longer than we probably care to sit through at this point in time, but I think there's more to come there. We also believe that the efforts we've invested in professional development, professional learning are paying off in our dividends for kids. I think the same is true as we aspire to be better. We will never have the opinion that we've arrived. If we've arrived, then there's no longer a need for education. We will continue to strive to be better and identify those efforts to be better.
Thank you.
Madam President and Mr. Strickland, what's our timeline for if we're only at 50% of the staff having this science of reading instruction? What's our timeline to get 100% of the staff on board with that?
So, Madam President, Mr. O'Brien, I can speak to what I think I know, and I've got an expert in the room that can tell me exactly what that timeline is. But we started with a cohort, first grade teachers. That was our first cohort. And it's a 2-year process. So they go through modules for 2 years, intensive training, where they become certified in the science of reading. We shouldn't expect to see results in their instructional practices holistically, probably until year 3 in all reality. Because they're learning it, they're getting it better. Many of them are unlearning years and even decades of practices that they've grown accustomed to. So started with cohort grade level 1, and we backfilled with kinder teachers. Then back to 2nd grade teachers, which is our cohort now. Our 3rd grade is our newest cohort. My apologies. So our 1st grade teachers are fully certified. This is their 3rd year in it. And remember, they did a lot of that via COVID. But our efforts now are back to, and now as instructional leaders, as campus administrators, what practices should we see in the classroom? Onto this 2-year effort to rework those instructional practices. Now we need to see the proof of those practices in the classroom, be able to generate those results for students in the long run. Ultimately, you're at least 2 years out before we begin the last cohort of our elementary staff.
And to piggyback on that, so we got all our 1st grade teachers done. So when we hire a new 1st grade teacher, what's the process for that?
Mr. O'Brien, to speak to your point, President, Mr. O'Brien, one of the things that we do every time we have a cohort is we pick up any new from any of the grade levels below. So we have including our resource teachers and our EL specialists. So it's a continual cycle of anybody that's new, anybody that switches grade levels. So we have about 8 spreadsheets to track that.
Yeah.
So it's a continual cycle. Our 4th grade will start in January. So they'll start the 8 modules. We hope once 3rd grade falls off, second grade falls off, we'll start fifth grade in the fall of next year. So about 2.5 years to complete training. We'll never arrive, as Mr. Strickland had stated, because it'll be a continual adding of new staff. One of the challenges is that turnover, just to say, is to keep that momentum.
One of the efforts that we continue to engage in is with higher ed. We'd love for this model to be part of that traditional teacher preparation model. And we're beginning to see some progress there. We also know that the capacity for institutes of higher ed don't have this capacity. That's not the model. They're engaged in instructing students science of reading. A lot of their reading instruction is based on balanced literacy as opposed to pressure. We will continue to do that.
Yeah, it would be nice if they came to us knowing this stuff and just needed to practice it. Thank you for your question, Mr. O'Brien.
Great question.
All right, I got one more item, if y'all are ready. So Terry just added this on, it was on the agenda, but the actual presentation, I provided you a hard copy. This information was embargoed until very recently, and so we weren't sure if we were going to be able to share it. So this is the graduation rate for Hobbs schools for class of 2022. So not the most recent graduated class, but the year before that. But this is the class that will count in our 22-23 will count in the 22-23 accountability system in our report cards. So the graduation class is always a year behind in that accountability model. So class of 2022 entered 9th grade in 2018-19. So any student that was enrolled at any snapshot in that year, they would be part of this cohort. If you'll remember, students get 16 possible snapshots, for one each reporting period over the course of the 4 years. And we have a shared accountability model. So if a student spends 3 snapshots with us, but they spend 13 snapshots in another district, we get 3 of 16 of those points, and the other district gets 13 out of 16. Which in some cases is helpful, in some cases is not, but it's that shared accountability model. So for Hobbs schools, because we have 2 high schools that get a rate, as a district, our graduation rate for 22 is 88.2% on-time graduation, meaning that they graduated in the 4 years. The freshman school has an 82.9% graduation rate. So those 9th graders who started with them in 2018, fall of 2018, 82.9% of them graduated on time. Hobbs High School, students that were either 10th, 11th, or 12th graders in that cohort, or with us all 3 years, the Hobbs High School graduation rate for class of 2022 is 90.1%. So if you look at those numbers, just actual kids, the total number of students that ever were in one of our high schools in this cohort was 833. Those who withdrew to either private school, homeschool, out of state, or out of country, 109. So we're not responsible for the graduation rate because they left the state of New Mexico. Cohort 2022, that's our core number, is 725 students. 639 of those graduated on time, and 86 of them either didn't graduate, dropped out, or could still be continuing at the alternative high school. So that's where we get that graduation rate of 88.2%. Broken out to the right is each demographic group and each student reporting category. And so you can see there's varying numbers in each of those groups, but you have it broken down: male, female, Hispanic, white, Black, Asian, Native American, free and reduced lunch, that's the FRL. So those are our students that are designated as economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, and English learners. on page 43, I'm sorry, page 2 of your handout, page 43 in the board packet. We also get points for 5-year graduation rate and 6-year graduation rate. So they continue to track those kiddos, that cohort, for an additional 2 years. So our 5-year graduation rate for class of 21 is 86% as a district, Hobbs High 89%, freshman school 78%. That's an increase of a couple of percentage points from their 4-year graduation rate. And then you can see class of 2020, now that they've had 6 years to graduate, we have 91% of Hobbs High students of that cohort graduating. On the next page are comparisons. So if you want to know, well, that's all well and good, but how are we doing compared to other schools? How are we doing compared to the state as a whole? The gold bars are us, of course. The purple bars are an average of other 5A high schools. So other 5A districts or 5A high schools within the state. And then the turquoise line is the state of New Mexico. So you can see that we have a higher graduation rate this year than the state and then the average of other 5A high schools. If you're looking at individual groups, that is true for each of those reporting categories and individual groups of students. We are outperforming the graduation rate, the state and other high schools like us. There is an asterisk there if you want to see which high schools are included in that 5A. There's an appendix in the last 2 pages that has those schools listed out for you. And then pages 45 and 46 are the Hobbs schools graduation rate over the last 10 years in all of those categories. So all students, you can see the gold again is us and the turquoise is the state. And so you can see over the last 10 years that we have been outperforming the state in graduation rate. The state graduation rate is about 78% right now. But you can see that we're also on average, we're improving each year. We've had a couple of dips, but overall, we are improving. Same with our English learners. Our economically disadvantaged students, our students with disabilities have had some fluctuation over the past 10 years, but all in all, 10 years ago, 70%, now 88%. I'm sorry, 86%. And then the last page there, male students, female students, white, Black, and Hispanic students, more of the same. We are outperforming the state and we are outperforming ourselves from 10 years ago. So we are continuing to improve each year overall. I will stand for any questions that you have about the class of 2022 graduation rate.
Looks good. Any questions for Mrs. Bird? Thank you very much.
Thank
So go to operations.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Young could not be with us tonight. He is actually attending the Facility Masters Workshop that many of our operational and maintenance staff attend annually in Albuquerque. So you get the backup tonight. So first project there that you see is the Southern Heights Elementary School replacement. And one thing Mr. Young did include is really the link for the video that shows those students moving in on their first day of school last Tuesday. So phenomenal experience for them. I was able to visit with Diana Salinas and her staff yesterday, day before yesterday. It wouldn't have been, it was Friday. That's right. Friday we had a bond presentation. So I was able to be present with them on Friday and and in their new space and have a presentation in there. So now goes phase two, which is, as we said before, is they're occupying the new building. And we begin phase two, which is the decommissioning of the old building. So I'm happy to share the timeline for that. Literally, my Salinas and I hadn't had a chance to talk about this. We were able to confirm a few dates today in reference to Southern Heights Phase 2, and more importantly, just this immediate dates prior to Christmas break. So on November the 1st, we will have a legacy ceremony for Old Southern Heights. The spur was set yesterday, so it was refinished and refurbished. Maintenance redid that, set that in front of the new building. It was in place yesterday. So on November the 1st at 9 a.m., we will have a legacy ceremony honoring the legacy of the original campus of Southern Heights. Members of the community, alum of Southern Heights will be invited. So we will publish that and get that word out on our various channels and opportunities. And then beyond that, there will be an auction, a public auction of the equipment. You'll see that set for within Ms. Gray's section of salvage materials and salvage inventory. The reason why the 18th is we have to wait 30 days pending board approval this evening or DFA to answer back if we can salvage those items or not. We hear nothing from them, we'll move forward with the 18th. We hear from them, we'll put the brakes on that process. But being sensitive to that overall schedule, site work, we want to begin that process and leverage not only the Thanksgiving break, but also the Christmas break for some of that heavy demolition and abatement. The auction would be held on the 18th. As the time becomes more clear, we'll share that out as well. Anyone that purchases things, they will have to have their items removed by the 22nd, which is previous to Thanksgiving break. And beginning on the 27th, that decommissioning process would begin. It would no longer be available to anyone other than contractor because of the abatement that would commence on that Monday. In terms of a completion date, we're not holding a contract or anything yet because those few dates there that are in fluctuation, once they begin that commissioning or decommissioning, we'll be able to set a more consistent schedule for the ribbon cutting for Southern Heights proper. Tidings Auditorium controls is that last phase of Tidings Auditorium as it relates to HVAC, and those are scheduled to be complete next week. In addition to the floor, we have moved forward with the floor replacement, the performance floor, moving along well, looks really good. There are no gouges in it. There will be no splinters for titles, so that will be a great thing. And to my knowledge, it will be performance black. So we will not have the bright stage that causes reflection. So, middle school study. We're all fairly familiar with that in terms of what that means for our upcoming bond election. Just a quick item to note, we do not have the RFP for your approval or consideration this evening for the design professional of that. As that selection committee reviewed those scores, we were within 1.2 points of a couple firms. And so we felt it prudent at that point. Let's move to the next step, which we always had available, which was the interview process. So we will have those interviews on November the 3rd for prospective firms to design the new middle school. Moving to the next page, ongoing projects. Looks like we'll be with an anticipated completion of REC 7 in mid-November. College Lane, Pettigrew will conduct that bidding process. Mr. Young and I had a pre-bid meeting with Pettigrew on Friday to go over that schedule, to go over the phasing of that and what that looks like. So we will have those bid processes that will open up here in the next few weeks. We anticipate that project to commence during Christmas break. And it may very well be a relocation of a playground and/or hardtop so that students can maintain utilization of that, and then put up that perimeter fence so that we can begin the roadway on the east side. allow their site egress to be maintained. It's the front of the school, the way it's phased out currently, would be that next phase, which would occur over the summer. Ms. Appleton, not too cumbersome yet, but we're getting there.
Oh, I had a terrible time getting out this morning.
Yeah.
I say, people, let me out.
Yes, yeah. Esco Arena, we do have a delay in shipment of lockers. Those are not scheduled to arrive until November the 13th. So we'll begin to look at what that effect is on our game schedule. We have been managing that through PE throughout this process. So we'll continue to manage that. A lot of that work is buttoning up. With the arrival of the lockers, we'll be able to finish that project out. Next page there, building door replacement. As you're all aware, this has been an ongoing process through a number of facilities across our district. We've replaced doors and continue to replace doors. Most recently, those two facilities that are in that punch list phase are Tasker and Multipurpose. And as we await the key of the scan card install. Summer projects. I'm going to take the liberty and change the name of that project. Something that I believe should be more dignified of the students that occupy that. And that space will be our special needs therapy, outdoor recreational therapy space. So we are awaiting the installation of that equipment. Once they finish some rehab of equipment at Murray, PK Sales will be able to move over to that project. The flat work is done. We're ready to install the equipment there at that new space. In terms of lights for tidings, there was a significant scope gap and understanding in the contract that we had for lights. And so the contractor requested a number of things that we weren't able to do as per the contract, as well as weren't comfortable with in terms of fulfilling the overall expectation of that. So we have put that back out to pricing to meet current pricing, but also to match the current scope of what's expected. Window replacements will begin beginning at Will Rogers and Stone in November. And those are projects that are on our annual capital outlay projects through our facility master plan. Indoor replacements at Taylor, Booker T, and Sanger are scheduled to begin here shortly as well. The security film, that project is progressing. You can tell as you walk around buildings and you can see a different change. So we're excited to see that. Strategically, we're not going to reveal where we are in terms of what's being installed, except to say that it continues to progress. So we're really pleased with the efficiency of that contractor making that project come to fruition. With that, I would stand for questions, or I will write them down and get
I've been asked this a couple of times regarding College Lane and the mess we have with school getting out each day. And is there going to be a new drop off and pickup once all this is done? It kind of gets everybody out of traffic on College Lane. Is it?
Madam President, Mr. Easton, the primary design of College Lane's pickup is we will build a new roadway on the east side, right next to our fence, essentially, that will go north. It also will tie into a roadway coming out of that new development. So from there, we're creating an intersection that vehicular traffic. That development wasn't there that many years ago. Those homes weren't there. So parents don't have a way of walking kids to school. There is no sidewalk, curb and gutter along College Lane yet. City is engaged in that process to some extent. I believe will tie into our summer work. But yes, that roadway will help get traffic off of College Lane. In addition to that, we're going to queue up traffic on the northern portion, northeast portion of that site. We will bring cars in, column stack them, then bring them in front of the building in order to load them. They will still load in the front, just like they do now. However, we're gonna pull a lot of those cars onto the site on the east and north side so that we can get them out.
We won't have kids crossing,
No, sir.
hopefully.
Shouldn't be doing that now.
Right.
because
Shouldn't be
they're-
doing it,
They
yeah.
should not be doing it now. And periodically, traffic is able, on the city side, they're able to get out there and give warnings, give citations, because there is no parking along Commerce Lane. Should be no one getting out of their vehicle, walking across the street to get their child, regardless of how busy they are or how big of a hurry they're in.
Answer some questions. now.
Yes, sir. Madam President, members of the board, the next item I have for your consideration is the disposal of the fixed assets contained within Southern Heights. And as you all know, that is the link to Southern Heights. I think Terry has there.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
You want them to see that video first?
Yeah, absolutely. The audio is really good with it as well. Anyone's wanting to karaoke, you're welcome to.
And by the way, I'm sorry, I don't have sound. My new computer doesn't have sound, so it's like a 30s show, black and white.
Yeah. So if you remember, we started that morning with students coming to their old campus. And that morning, they moved, grabbed their things and lined up, came into the new building, and then we picked up on their new campus. As we know, with any new building, there will be items that we will tweak and work and learn and we'll move into. Just like any new car, we learn the squeaks, we learn the tweaks. But yeah, we'll continue to work that punch list as contractors are. With that, the next item is the disposals, salvage for your consideration. As I shared before, this is an action item that allows us to submit that inventory to DFA for their feedback and or opinion. In the event they have 30 days to respond. In the event they did respond for any specific item, we would pull that item in question and not have it salvaged or have it auctioned off. Just to avoid a audit finding in the subsequent audit.
Do you
So
need-
is
do
the
you want the
disposal
list?
list just this one page?
Yeah, let me see the list because it didn't,
No, in fact, I believe it is pages 56.
there's not
Nothing.
much
Yeah,
there.
We got
Yeah.
blanks and
Oh, that's should be in there in yours. Kind of hard to see.
56 through 70.
yeah, I don't see that at all. on mine. Here's what we got.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. All our pages kind of look like that.
What I will do is get up and do it this way.
Which I'm okay. I trust you.
I can read each one of them into the record.
It's computers, a refrigerator, copiers.
Well, that's what we've
laminators.
got, but I think that Southern Heights disposal is the building, isn't it?
Those are the things.
This is
Computers.
the only list you got.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the
this is-
only list that I got is that page right there, and then the rest of them were. That's why I was asking if that the
Oh,
only
and see,
page.
there's that, and now I've got that list here.
You should see a roster of computers, projectors,
I don't, do y'all?
Laptops.
But nope.
Yeah.
refrigerators.
Tomorrow, so that you all will see it, I will retake it from this and resend it to you, so you can open it up and review that.
Okay.
list.
If there's any items of concern, we won't send that until you tell us. An issue with that. This is a statutory requirement. We take action, to approve the disposal of that building and the contents. Allow DFA action on it. We're submitting a DFA, we absolutely will confirm that that list is appropriate. It's interesting that Apple products didn't load that. IBM products are.
Uh-uh.
I'm not blaming it on
Apple?
Steve Jobs, I wouldn't do that. Here's
You have all
here's his load. She's got hers all the way through.
I'll have it.
There's-
Okay, well, I will entertain a motion for the disposal of all of the assets.
So
at
moved.
Southern Heights. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And you'll be sending that to us
I will
tomorrow?
send that to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
fact, I'll pull it out and send it right now.
Okay, business. Ms. Gray.
Madam President, members of the board, for your consideration, we have the bars, or we don't have any bars this time. Oh, hold on. I was pulling up the list, sorry. For your consideration, we have the expenditures, the investments.
Just the index first, because your next ones will be separate.
The expenditures and investments.
We've had this information since Friday. Like I said, I trust if any of you had a question on this, you contacted Ms. Gray. And I will entertain a motion, the expenditures and the short-term investment.
So moved.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And Madam President, members of the board, for your consideration, we have the co-op list. And just to refresh your memory, every year we have to get approval to use these co-ops that such as CES and that nature.
Okay,
Didn't get that.
I
either.
didn't get that.
Yeah.
That one either.
It's strange.
Are you seeing?
Shows
Yeah,
the
I see the
monthly
list.
budget report. Okay. That's
That's interesting. Is it showing?
Yeah, it's, yeah.
So
It's CES, tips, buy board.
Madam President, members of the board, those entities that we use on cooperative purchasing would be CES, Cooperative Educational Services, TIPS, Buy Board, EEPPM, Omnia, ESC 19, One GPA, and Sourcewell are cooperative agencies that we procure things from. They're cooperative, or not cooperative, but they're competitively held contracts.
We don't have to have bids on those
Correct.
things, those
Yes, sir.
items. Yes,
If a vendor carries a contract with them, we can utilize this cooperative bid process.
It just saves us from having to go out for some of those bids and RFPs.
yes. That saves a lot of time, I'm sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Do I have a motion to approve the co-op agreement list?
So moved.
Motion, do I have a
Second.
second? A second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, consideration of the blanket approval to move and maintain transfers and maintenance.
Yes, ma'am. That's just so, as we need to move within fund and function, we have that ability. It's not increase or decrease those, and I will bring those to you the month after, but this is just so we can get those going.
We'll have to wait a month to get it.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And we have our monthly budget report.
Yes,
Thank you
ma'am.
for that. Now, Mr. Strickland.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, I have for your consideration the third and final reading this evening of New Mexico School Board Association Policy Service Advisories 33 through 237. A general reminder, these have been read into the record and considered in both August, September, and then again this evening. Capture some of the comments, that there were no edits to these policy service advisories. We are reading them as provided based upon substantial discussion, information from our legal counsel, as well as statutory authority. Have been advised to accept them as written. One comment, and that has been shared repeatedly, is that we have a long-standing reputation looking out for all our kids. As for students. So understand the sentiment with some of the policies or the policy advisories as it relates to board policy, and appreciate the dialogue, thinking that we may have been covered by previous policies.
So students will not be getting Tuesday, November, whatever off. I see it says effective date 2024.
You're talking on the election day.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. That begins in January of 2024
Okay.
in terms of that one. So next year, as we build our school calendar, that general election day or any election day to be held within our municipal boundaries is deemed to be a state school holiday. So we will take that into consideration as we build our calendar with the various constraints as opposed to number of school days as well as hours that we're currently bound by.
Make sure. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the third reading of the policies?
So moved.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye, all opposed.
I thought about it. I still haven't voted.
His lips are sealed.
Can you all see that on your computer?
Which one?
They haven't moved on yet.
Oh,
but
okay.
still on the advisories.
I see HEB.
No, we're not getting a grocery store.
The straw.
Start that rumor, yeah.
I see HEB. Is that?
So
That's not from me.
yes,
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's like
It's
page 2
down,
or 3.
okay.
So
Skip
Oh,
on
okay.
down,
Okay,
okay.
I'm finding it. I'm finding
Okay.
it.
Madam President, members of the board, the next
Oh, look at
item
these,
That's not
look at
me.
these three fine people's pictures.
for your information is really an opportunity to maintain the conversation. So with us this evening, or with me this evening, is Mr. Cantu and Ms. Flowers. Really to help maintain that discussion as it relates to the work we're doing with Holdsworth. A broad overview, the Permian Strategic Partnership and their work with the school districts in the Permian. Continue to partner with us, and we continue to ask questions and continue to ask for support from PSP. And Holdsworth Group and Renee and Susan will do a really good job of capturing that. But has been sought out by Permian Strategic Partnership, help develop leadership in a number of capacities. And And the work that you see here is in line with our strategic plan as it relates to succession planning, as it relates to a leadership pipeline, and being intentional with that work. So we're engaged in two projects with the Holdsworth Center. One is a leadership collaborative, which they will spend this evening really discussing in terms of the slides you see in front of you, as well as the campus leadership project. We've got 4 campuses that are getting that, develop local leadership on their campus and leadership capacity and building capacity at that campus level. And 2 Ms. Flowers.
Well, I'm pretty sure that we're done. He stole my thunder. I'm just kidding. He still has me on it. So, yeah, so again, Susan, I, and Mr. Strickland, we get a part of this district leadership collaborative and kind of give you a little bit of history. Yes, it's going to be HEB, Charles Buck. So in 2017, he established this particular foundation. And really, it's all about education. He named it after his mother, who was an educator, Elizabeth. The facility is amazing. I mean, it's a $200 million facility. It has 16 buildings, 140,000 feet. You're not going to put numbers in everything I do. And it can occupy 180 as far as individuals at one point in time. But it's, again, built solely for education and to develop strong leaders across Texas and now part of New Mexico. So maybe the HEB might go over. They say no, but since they've included us in this partnership, I'm hoping for the HEB. If we go to the next slide, you definitely see as far as the Captain, Gilligan, and Ginger. It's an 18-month program. Every 6 weeks, we get to travel to Austin and take part. And as far as to kind of grow and build capacity in one another. For some reason, I always get to drive. I don't know why, but I've enjoyed as far as that time. That sometimes the captain, but really it's to support district leaders to build capacity, okay, as far as into our aspiring administrators and to be proactive versus reactive when we have those positions open up as far as within our district. And then if we look at the next slide, really those are the 4 work streams that we're taking part of. And we're going to just kind of go through each one of those. So really the district talent assessment, the leadership definition, which is going to be the brunt of that work right now. We'll discuss the talent pipeline and then vacancy planning. So the very first one we're going to look at is the district talent assessment. So it's a 50-question assessment. It takes anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes. We did that assessment from October the 2nd through the 11th. We just finished that up. So as far as the individuals that we interviewed, we're going to be principals, assistant principals, lead teachers or teacher leaders as instructional coaches, our SIMs, and then teachers. One of the sample questions to kind of give you an idea, they're really looking at how, as a district, do we support leaders, and we'll talk about the pipeline across. And they'll really say from the teacher to the principal, but I like using something that I heard from one of our district partners, and that's from the student all the way up to the superintendent. How are we creating leaders and also that succession plan all the way across? Because really, it's the students that we want eventually to be in our shoes. One of the sample questions, it's a 1 to 5 Likert scale. So I'm gonna give you just a sample question. It says, I receive high quality actionable feedback and discuss PD with a supervisor throughout the year. So I rate that on a 1 to 5. It's really about supporting and developing as far as. And the next, as far as work stream, is going to be creating a leadership definition. You can actually kind of read that as far as on your own. So I can kind of bunched up a little bit, but really it's clearly defining expectations for principals. And then we're going to talk about the pipeline, but also clearly define expectations for all of the levels of leadership. So again, it aligns to our mission, our vision, our core values, and strategic plan. 2 of the phrases that I've been using quite a bit when I speak to district leaders or our leaders in general is clarity empowers. The clearer we are, it empowers us to do our job. Another one that I just stole from Josh Campbell is clarity precedes opportunity. Gotta have that clarity. So that's what that leadership definition will do for us. The next one's really gonna, again, we believe statement. And if you look at that statement, really that clarity allows district leaders to identify future leaders, develop future leaders, be proactive in placing the leaders in the right positions in the right schools, and then of course to support our future leaders. That's Susan over.
On this slide, I'm just going to show you kind of some examples of what we're going to be working towards. So this is an example of HEB's icon or their motto, their visual. So for Hub Schools, we'll be creating our own visual, not the grocery store visual here, but and then we will be going through the leadership definition of what we expect, what the skills and traits are, and what the values are. Go to the next one. In each one of these, they're broken into categories, competencies, and then competency descriptions, which is competencies is just the attributes or behaviors that we want to see out of it. And this is broken down even further, just to give more clarity. The three things you see on the left, where there are three big things on the front visual, and then they break it down into the competencies, and then on the far right, you'll see the behaviors of each of those. So when they go for passion for results, the competencies are adaptability, drive for results, and innovation. But then you'll see on the far right, it breaks it down even more. What am I expecting to see if I'm adaptable? Just getting from the big picture to clear expectations of my behavior. This is a timeline of where we started, where we're headed. We started back in July going, and you can just read through there. The ones on the top are what we do when we're there at Holdsworth in Austin. And then we come back and we do what's in green. We had our first task force meeting October. Our next one's November 14th. So, and those are the things there that we did. We've included some pictures underneath of our first task meeting. Principals, assistant principals. We had some community members show up. That's just the work that we did. And this is what it will look like when we get to the end. So you have your competencies will stay the same for each group of people that we work with. This is our pipeline. We'll have a teacher, teacher leader, assistant principal, and principal. The competencies will stay the same, but the descriptors will change as our expectations for each of those roles change. We don't expect from a teacher what we expect from a principal as far as being adaptable.
And then our third work stream is really looking at that leadership pipeline. So when you look at leaders of self, that's really what we're talking about, your educators, your teachers. And really when you think about it, it's really a lot of individualistic work that you do. Now we do have planning times and network Wednesday, but a lot of it's really responsible for yourself and as far as for your students. And then it goes up to leading others. And that's usually when you become a lead teacher. And now you're trying to enable others as well. So part of your work is still doing your own classroom work, then you dedicate some time to helping lead others. And then we're looking at leaders of other leaders. That's kind of like your assistant principals. And again, if you're also a singleton in there, a principal at one of our elementaries, you fit in that role. And then finally, the leader of the school, that's the principal. And as you move up that particular pipeline, if we go to the next slide, you'll be able to see there's some key shifts. Really, the key shifts are going to be coming as far as their skill set their values / identity, and as far as the time, because they're moving from, again, individual work to leading others, to leading teams, now to leading an entire organization. So if you think about just moving up in any organization, think about those three things, how your time really changes. So instead of doing all that work and dealing about yourself and dealing with your own kids, your lens and your scope of your work starts to open. And now you're managing other people, you're managing teams, you're managing the entire school culture. Those are three value sets that are going to change. So as we grow our leaders from, again, teachers all the way to principals, we're going to identify those particular shifts. What are the skill sets they have in each of those particular scores, movements across? What are the values / identity? And then, of course, also looking at how they, again, develop and utilize their time. And then the last, as far as work stream, is really vacancy planning. That's us being very proactive, looking at our historical data when it comes to as far as our leadership and as far as assistant principals and principals, and looking at the vacancies we've had over the last 5 years, also making projections for the following year and years to see how we have to develop as far as our bench of individuals. So again, we look at historical data, we're looking at our current leaders, we're looking as far as the reasons as far as why our administrators are actually leaving. But again, also how we match as far as our individuals in our particular campus, how they represent as far as our campus. So we look at all that historical data to be, again, proactive versus reactive in building our bench so they can step into those roles. And then the last slide, oh, we have one more, right? So that's going to be as far as there's one before that, which I didn't talk about. It was still in there, just slide. So they gave us a really cool Excel tool. That's why I like it, because it's Excel, for us to actually plug in as far as our data, so we can actually make those projections for us. And the last thing is just really a summary. Those are the 4 work streams that we're going to be involved in for the next 18 months. Now, they said 18 months, but I counted the months, it's 20. Okay, so it's really 20 months. And also another thing I did not know.
Oh, my.
I didn't read. It's every 6 weeks it would go. Even though I mentioned that, I should have read the fine print before I told you. Yes. But I really enjoyed the time with both of our colleagues here. So that was a pretty good question.
That's really interesting. I know from conversations you've had, it's enjoyable.
Yeah, and Madam President.
You get discounts at HEB, that's what I. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. And you know, we were actually lobbying because Canutillo ISD literally sits on the border between New Mexico and Texas, far West Texas, and they don't have an HEB. And so they were asking HEB, which, by the way, the guy that was presenting to us is a former Eastern New Mexico University alum, played football for the Greyhounds, go Hounds. Appreciate that. He said they're working on it and they're trying to identify that, but their commitment to their drivers, their truck drivers, is that they get to be home every night.
Yeah.
And so he said, we're willing to have a conversation if you need a warehouse here in Hobbs for drivers, and find drivers here out of Hobbs that can make that trip to outfit Canutillo for a grocery store. So we're seeing where we can come up with solutions for that and see if we can't help out kind of along the way. But more pointed to this work here. And we had a session today, and it actually was not part of this work. Our aspiring administrators met today. There's a new cohort that Holdsworth has identified they need to work on and develop in the Permian Basin. And so they're on a listening tour across the Permian Basin, and they wanted to listen to some of our new service principals and assistant principals within the last 3 years, as well as members that have been attending our aspiring administrators. So they had a session today, and it was a vulnerable session because you get to sit and listen to how our leadership development system has probably been broken. And that pipeline, I think, is a very good representation. Because oftentimes traditional leadership pipelines are not necessarily competency based, they're credit based. I can complete credits within an institute of higher education that's vetted by the Public Education Department and licensure, and that qualifies me to be campus leader. Correct, statutorily, you met the statute requirements. However, so much of what happens on a daily basis is about other skill sets. And so the session that we literally got to sit and listen to today, while it may have been a vulnerable moment for those of us in district level leadership, absolutely confirmed the work that we're doing here, confirmed the work that's happening on our 4 campuses, confirms the work that we're doing with Priority Schools Bureau, that next to the classroom teacher, campus leadership is the most important position in a school district, has the greatest impact on student success. So this work here, we're extremely grateful for Holdsworth, because had it not been for PSP, the Primary Strategic Partnership, school districts in New Mexico would not have access to this. In addition to that, they only accept a certain number of school districts on an annual basis to the Holdsworth Center for their various programs. So PSP was able to leverage their finances and say, we want you to allow members from Permian to participate. So that's primarily the campus leadership project they're participating in with other districts in our Permian. We'll speak to at a later session. Participating at the district level absolutely allows us to build out that intentional development system that's above the statutory requirements. Even some of the comments today, they should tell you what you're getting into. And the pipeline illustrates that oftentimes we elevate individuals into positions of leadership, and because they're elevated, the assumption is, or the expectation is, they have that skill set. When in reality, it's on the job training, but the expectation is already here. And so the work and the work streams that Holdsworth has put together, they're not a startup. That they've been around, and they've demonstrated this work across the state of Texas and within multiple districts in Texas. I mean, there's 2,000 districts in Texas, and they've demonstrated this work over and over. We're extremely grateful for that opportunity for us to develop a systemic and systematic method of developing leaders within our district that can contribute to the overall student success on our campus. So, again, I'm grateful that Renee does not read very well, even though his wife is one of our strongest literacy components.
She reads too.
She reads to him. But he didn't look at the calendar out there. But yeah, this work will wrap up in terms of withholds work formally in February of 25. And out of that, we will already have a number of things. And so they both, Susan and Renee, did a great job of capturing some of those artifacts we've been creating over a number of years. A strategic plan, which by the way, we'll probably update here in the next 6 or 9 months because it's time. To our mission, to our vision, to our values and standards of practice, as well as profile of a need. What does our community expect of our graduates? So those artifacts help to inform this as we continue to build out that system for leadership development. We will have periodic updates for you as well, and in tune as to how that's progressing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, the last thing I have is really in line with some of the values that we talk about. A number of months ago, as a board, we adopted Hosmer Municipal Schools core values, and you've seen that graphic or that visual a couple of times. If you haven't, I'd encourage you to click on that blue link there. It'll take you to a landing page. You can click on each one of those standards or one of those values, and you can see those standards of practice. That's what our community said. That's who we are. Interestingly enough, last night at the city commission meeting, I was able to hear the proclamation read for the November 1st being the Extra Mile Day. And the city commission adopted November 1st as the Extra Mile Day. And it really speaks to who we are as a community, that we go that extra mile to make sure that Hobbs is a great place for its people. It ties very well with one of our values and even a number of our values as a school district. And they were they were constructed completely separately. Service, meet the need. As a community, we often find ourselves stepping up and doing more than what's asked of us, building capacity in others so that we can continue to thrive and flourish as a community here in Hobbs America. So that values graphic and the standards of practice is something that we will have probably one more tweak. We've got the CTEC students working on our individual icons for each one of those values. And so that'll be the last update to that. And then you'll begin to see that populate our campuses all over. But you'll see it in any number of ways. But in addition to that, that QR code is a shout out. We want to be able to capture those moments when folks see people, see Hobbs Eagles living out those values, whether those are students like Cash here and sustainable high performance. That young man sat there and read a book to us, and he's 5 years of age. To the capacity building that happens. I mean, last week or 2 weeks ago at leadership, we had 4 principals build capacity in other principals in the form of a student assessment team process and show what a fishbowl looks like. Sat in a fishbowl. Talk about vulnerable. Your colleagues, and you're sitting there sharing examples with what a effective SAT team looks like, to students living those things out, members of our community shouting out other individuals. And so I've got it on my schedule tomorrow. I'm going to do some Ed McMahon visits. I'm not taking any checks, but I am going to do some pop-ins, and I'm going to acknowledge individuals that we've received shout outs on, and thank them and acknowledge them for the ways in which they've lived out our values as Hobbs Eagles and Hobbs Municipal Schools. So this is a tool that we will continue to lean on and pull from and highlight. We will share those periodically with this board and encourage you to shout out any of those that you see. So it's a little bit of collection tool that allows us to capture those. So our value of focus for the month of October is on capacity building. You've seen some of that. I mean, the work that Renee and Susan shared is about building capacity in our leadership. How are we growing ourselves and others? The month of November, our value of focus will be innovation. How are we willing to expose what didn't work and be better? Innovation is not about perfection. I think an acronym is FAIL. It's a first attempt in learning. You got it right all the time, we wouldn't need to learn anything. So we are consistently engaged in being better, and we will continue to be better as we highlight those individual values each month. Wanted to share that tool with you. Wanted you to be able to take part in that. And I will share those visits with you if you're available and you want to come along. I'd love for you to. That I'd stand for questions.
Answered mine.
All right.
Madam President, members of the board, a couple of announcements. Lisa Calderon services are slated for tomorrow at 11 a.m. For those able to attend, it will be at St. Helena. And we do have staff lined up to help cover staff members that are wishing to go so that their classes are covered. In addition to that, a very long-time partner of Hobbs Schools in Mike Clampett, Executive Director of Boys and Girls Club. His services will be on Friday at 10 a.m. This man passed away on Tuesday afternoon, just a week ago. And so we sorely miss him. already, and will be a big hole to fill in our community within the Boys and Girls Club. Lee County In-Service, we talked about, November the 1st will be a Lee County In-Service Day. So that will be an early release for students. So secondary students will get out at 11:30. Elementary students will dismiss at 12:20. We will all be at Tidings Auditorium by 1:30, seated by 1:30. And at your tables, we each have this flyer to save the date. You're welcome to attend. You're invited to attend. And we're going to be hearing the featured speaker that afternoon is LaDonna Gatlin, the sister of the Gatlin brothers. Okay. So motivational speaker, I think it's timely that we'll be able to hear from her. Election will occur on November the 7th. We will have an election on November the 7th. Early voting has begun. Urge individuals to request their ballot or go vote early. That's what you'd so choose to do. A regular board meeting. We do need to change it. It is the night that we begun Thanksgiving break, and I've already heard that we would not have a quorum present. If I recall, November the 14th is probably the best date available, which we would move that forward one week. And we'll be able to have Thanksgiving that next week, but a celebration on November the 14th for one particular board member, as we have an additional king.
That was my birthday. I will wear my crown again and
Thanksgiving holiday will begin for our students and staff on November the 22nd, the 24th. And the annual convention, I believe Terry's caught you all up in terms of those dates, begins on November the 30th, runs through December the 2nd. And we were able to get everyone at the conference hotel. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. We appreciate your help in accomplishing that. I believe that's all. Any additional questions? I stand for ready for.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Vámonos.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
battery had 8 minutes.